Junk. You guys remember that song? Dear Master Jesus. What a terrible fucking song. Oh. Lots of chemtrails. Fresh one getting laid right there. Second one on the bottom there. Because you are a piece of shit. That's what my title is. Because you are a piece of shit. And you are. Look at that. You're a piece of shit. That's why you don't care. I don't know. I really do find it amazing. Like, it's great. It's to think about how exposed Israel has been recently, and how how the everyday person is finally starting to like step up and realize that they can say shit. They can say how they feel. Who's POS? Piece of shit. The Beeve. What's happening, the Beeve? And Matt, the visionary. It's time we oh look, he's in his direction suddenly. He's going across. Soon as the gas or whatever it is runs out, he has to change his direction a little bit. Interesting. We got another one getting laid right up here. Can't see it as well probably. But much in this world that is way, way wrong and should be on the tip of everyone's tongue. Everyone should be talking about it. Everyone should be complaining. But they're not. But there's a lot more than there ever has been, and it's pretty fucking awesome to see. You know, I was going through cleaning out my Gmail, my spam folders, and my old all the old messages in my Gmail. And you get that one part that's just for social media messages. So it shows me all of the responses to all the comments that I've made on YouTube. And I was getting back to like 2019 and stuff and seeing the things that I was saying back then. We would have had a lovely blue sky, exactly. It's always interesting to see that guy with no white in his beard and like it's all this color. But just to see like how the responses were and to see how people's minds have changed. Well, I don't know if they've changed, but just to see like apparently I've been calling the Jews out since long before 2023 or 2020. I figured it was right around 2020 is when I sort of made the switch, and I decided that I was going to, focus my efforts on one group of people. Well, on the head of the monster. I thought we need to cut the head off the monster. There's no sense in continuing to talk about all the little tentacles of the monster. My stated goal, my stated purpose. And when I figured that out in 2020, well, on New Year's, I mean, again, it wasn't like I was serious. Although I guess I was like, I wasn't serious about it being a New Year's revolution. New Year's resolution. I think that shit's stupid. But it happens all the time where I get to a point in this journey where change is necessary, and it has to be sort of a drastic change because I'm feeling stale, or I'm not writing, or whatever it may be that facilitates and initiates that change. And it'll usually be something where I'll, it just feels like whatever I was talking about, the direction I was in has run its course. So now I'm going to, I need to adapt or risk sounding ridiculous. And so, I mean, 2019, going from 2019 to 2020, I predicted COVID. If you were here, then you know it's true. If you weren't here, then you'll say I'm lying for some reason. Change is inevitable. Change is love is the only thing that never changes. Life will never and can never be stagnant. Oh, yeah. We have stupid people here. Stupid people. If I had my hair nicely brushed, I guess what I was saying would make more sense. I should, slick my hair way back, get the grease so it's all slick, so there's no sticking up hairs, and put on a suit one day and see if that makes any difference. It won't, but I should. But I just, going from 2019 to 2020, I think people have forgotten where we were and what was happening. Our country was just reeling from the Trump stuff. And bruh, why are you so heated, bruh? Chill. Can you imagine being that stupid? She must be reasonably attractive so she can sound stupid and it not matter. If you literally type the word bruh twice in one sentence, think about how much this person says that shit on a regular basis. Talk about identifiers, right? You trick the goyim into expressing identifiers that show where they are and who they are and whatnot. You trick people into naming their kids stupid things. But then you get them, you trick them into saying things like that, so it's identifiable. You don't have to waste time on them. Oh, okay, this person's dumb enough to actually type the word bruh. Bruh. Bleh. 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 Can I make breakfast? You can have a bowl of cereal.
How about you make me some?
There is none.
How about you make me some buttered toast? What do you say?
I don't like you that much. No, really, I don't. Dear Mr. Jesus. Put on a suit. You would be real cool. I would make the news. No vocabulary having stuff. Exactly. I say worse words than bra on the regular. We know you do. You're a bigot. I'm sure you say all sorts of really ugly, mean words all the time. But bruh is an identifier. It's a stupid thing. It's to identify who the stupid people are. Especially if you're dumb enough to type it. Like that's taking it to a whole new level. It's one thing that you say something all the time. And it would take somebody speaking to you before they would truly grasp how stupid you are. But when you type it out like that, oh man, that says everything. Dear Mr. Jesus. Don't start on me. Well, don't be a bigot. I will always call out bigotry, stupidity, blah, blah, blah. You want to change that, then change your fucking bigotry. You hit your kids too? Are you a spanker? Yeah, I beat my kids. I'm a giant human being who hits children. Why not? What's wrong with that? It's crazy, man. It's crazy that we've been taught to hit our children. Such a fucked up, so fucked up. It's such a fucked up way of doing things. And it's so not realistic. It doesn't happen in real life. You don't get spanked in real life. Like, you don't get in trouble at work and somebody then touches your butt, hits you in the butt. There's no correlation to real life adult activities. Like, where the fuck that came from is insane. Eventually, your kid gets too big for you to spank them. And you have to sit there and have conversations with them. Probably hard conversations that you were too insecure or stupid or bigoted to have with them when they were young. So now that you can't spank them anymore, your relationship falls apart because, they're no longer scared of you. Like, I don't want my kids to do anything because they're scared of their dad. Or not do something or whatever. I want them to do the right thing. I want them to do things because it's the right thing to do. You don't steal not because you're worried about getting in trouble. You don't steal because it's the wrong thing to do. Why would you, that's somebody else's stuff. And you're going to put somebody else in a bad situation because you wanted something you couldn't afford. Or you could afford, you just chose to steal it, whatever. Like, it's really, it's amazing how stupid we've been, guided into being, made into being. I mean, it's obvious, and it's on every level. You don't talk to your children, you hit them violently. You know me, I've always spanked you real good, haven't I? While teaching you about gay sex and all that other stuff.
That was part of the lesson.
Part of the lesson, right. Ugh. We don't want that, but all approaches don't work for all children. No, it's the parents, you dumbass. No. No, nothing a kid does wants a giant human being hitting them. Like, imagine it in reverse, or imagine it in, a different scenario. Imagine, so let's say you're twice the size, more than twice the size of your child, especially when they're like 3-4 years old. You're more than twice their size. So say somebody, I'm 6 something or another. Say somebody almost 13 feet tall. And what?
What are you doing?
I mean, as a young kid, like, how much do kids weigh? I mean, say my kid weighs 50 pounds, and that's a heavy kid. Again, I'm 4 times their body weight, 4, 5 times, 6 times their body weight. So I'm 13 feet tall, and I'm 4 to 6, so 8 to 1,200 pounds. Or that person is that big, and I fuck up, and that person grabs me by the arm. Get your ass over here. And you're like, what the fuck? And they throw you over their knee. Just a whoppa, whoppa. Do you know how terrifying that would be? Do you know how fucking terrifying that would be? Especially if you had submitted to the idea that this person is everything to you. You look at this person like they're just like you love them. You think of you think the world of them. They're your parents. And they're just spanking you multiple times. Not even are they spanking you. Some of them are getting weapons. Like taking off their belt. Or using I got the wooden spoon growing up. Just think about how insane that is. You treated your son like a young adult. Not knowing when I would ever stop either. Not knowing when it would ever stop. Right, you don't know. You have no idea. And you don't have. You have a child brain. So you're not. Like, no kid has ever been spanked, then left in their room, and they thought, oh, you know what? I probably deserve that. That was thing. I'm glad my dad spanked me. I'm glad my mom spanked me because that I deserve that. I shouldn't have done that thing. I shouldn't have hit my sister, so I'm glad they spanked me. I shouldn't have broke that lamp, so I'm glad. I shouldn't have talked back, so I'm glad they spanked me because I learned my lesson. Every single time a kid gets hit, they sit in their alone space going, I hate them. I hate it. I hate you so much. I'll never hit my kids. Why'd you hit me? You know, that's how that works. I got the spoon and belt on occasion. And I'm sure it made you a better person, didn't it? Weren't you better for it? After you got that spanking, weren't you like, fuck yeah, I learned my lesson. I'm so glad my parents didn't just talk to me and express to me what I'm doing wrong and try to change my kid brain. I'm glad they hit me violently with a fucking foreign object.
I remember thinking,
No, you don't.
I woke up one morning and I used nail clippers, and I was young. I was probably 5 or 6, and I used the nail clippers, and the sound woke my dad up because I was sitting down on the floor at the edge of the foot of their bed, and he got up and he looked at me and he grabbed me and he started spanking me, and I remember thinking, you didn't want me to get hurt, so you're hurting me. Like, I remember thinking that. I remember thinking, like, it didn't make sense. What he was doing didn't make sense. You want to protect me from hurting myself, so you're going to hurt me. And then, it was a fleeting thought because I was a kid and it hurt and I was scared, but.
But you learned your lesson, though, didn't you? You never use nail clippers again. Maybe that's why today she has big, giant, friggin' gaudy nails.
They're beautiful.
They're gaudy.
They are beautiful.
You know, I mean, it was something I had to learn because I was that. I said, oh, you better, but I can't believe these parents out here don't spank their kids. These parents out here don't spank their, I'm going to spank my kids. You better believe I'm going to spank my kids. Blah, 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 blah. And I did spank my kids. Like 3 times for the, 5 times for the older one and 2 or 3 times for the younger one. And they were like nothing spankings. Like I used my hand and it was, but I remember very, very well the last day it ended. And I was trying to get my youngest to bend over and take the spanking. And he was just screaming, no, Dad, no. And I was like, dude, I'm not even going to hit you hard. Like, I'm just going to tap your butt a couple of, no. You could see like the fear and the.
It was terror. It was more than fear.
It was like hurt. Like, you're my dad.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
I didn't do anything that warrants you hurting me. Like,
right. I was thinking, I was doing a good job with the nail clippers. Like, you didn't even see what a good job of, like, why? Yes. That's that feeling.
And I grabbed him and I hugged him and I was just like, no, this is never happening again. I'm sorry. I do not want to do this to you. This is not the goal. It's not the goal to have you. And I remembered it. I've been spanked more times than you know, I can't even begin to put a number on it. Like hundreds of times. And it was always like fucked up. You know? And I remember when my last spanking, my mom was mad about something. Can't remember what it was. I was
The little shit in one
seventh grade. Thank you. Seventh grade, I think. Seventh grade, maybe going into eighth grade, something like that. She was like, bend over the couch. Okay. And I bent over. Oh, look at you. You sure seem good to go now.
I'm slouched. What are you talking about?
Oh, you're slouched? What
Yes.
do you mean? You called me, you said a T.
No, I said cheese.
Oh. Well, that didn't help me much.
It helped me much. I got cheese.
Go sit down.
Let me eat the wax.
Yeah.
They don't eat wax a couple
I
of
don't
ago.
care. I don't care. So I bend over the thing, and she grabs the wooden spoon, and it's... We don't even have one like we had. It's kind of like this, but it was round. The handle was round. And she hit me once or twice. And, I mean, you know, unlike the kids today, when I was 13, 14, probably 14, I mean, like, I probably rode my bike, 10 miles every day, no problem. We walked around a few miles every day. We played sports. We climbed trees. We did all kinds of crazy shit. And I would imagine at that point, this is also after I had been kicked off the bus and had to walk to school and blah, 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 all these different things. Like, I was a little, no doubt about it, but my body was like crafted out of steel. And so when my mom hit me that second or third time, and it broke, the spoon broke and went flying off. I remember being bent this and looking this way, looking to my left, and hearing the tsh, and it went flying up, and it was like almost like it was slow motion. And I started laughing, and she just flipped out. She was like, "Oh my God!" She literally like flipped out, and it was because her go-to was now gone. Instead of creating instead of creating an environment where we spoke and we communicated and all that, this was her last sort of hurrah. And she's a female, and she's a scared female who's been assaulted and all these things. So like I had become her size. And because she had built everything on that physical, that same thing my wife, I got to physically scare them. No, you're not going to always be able to physically scare them. You have to create an environment where they would never want to hurt you. That you're so important. You're their mother. Why would they ever hurt their mother?
Mr. and Mrs. Almazri reapplied for their insurance 8 months ago, and at that time they were specifically asked.
And that really did change a lot in with our dynamic. Like, it was really, I mean, I was a decent kid, so it's not like I did very much. I got spanked all the time, but I got spanked for like getting my shoes dirty and shit. I didn't get spanked for breaking windows and stealing things and all that. I wasn't that kid. There was a period where I was quite a thief, though. I can't admit that. But it was all about the rush. It wasn't even about the stuff. It was about the rush of doing it and getting away with with it and put like that, you know. It's a really bad idea. Really, really bad. But my mom was gone from like 5:30 in the morning, 6 in the morning till 6, 7, and at those times there were times where she had second jobs and shit. So I was the definition of latchkey. I could, I literally had a red shoestring with a key around it because I kept losing it if it was in my pocket. Because when you're a kid who hangs upside down on monkey bars and climbs, does all kinds of shit falls out of your pockets.
You never notice it because you're a dumb kid. It's amazing how kids just don't notice that shit.
I mean, why would you? You're hanging upside. You're concentrating on your hanging upside down and stuff. And so for me, it always comes back to, why do you think we do that? Who told us to spank? I know, like, I never realized quite how violent TV used to be. Ward Cleaver used to beat the shit out of the Beaver and Wally. You just didn't see it. But it was implied that it had happened, and it did happen, and it would happen at sort of the drop of a hat, if necessary. But I think the worst show for that I saw, or that I remember seeing or have recently seen an episode of, is Good Times. Good Times, by far, the big black scary dad who beats the shit out of his kids when they don't listen. That was a mainstay of that show. There was even one. Yeah, we've all done things in the past we regret. It's what helps us grow as people and do better. Exactly. I don't hold anything against anyone unless I, like, if you can't fuck with a child and say, oh, I learned my lesson. For you to have thought a child was an option to begin with means we're just not on the same page. But there's this episode of Good Times where Michael is getting bullied by a kid at school. Because he's clearly gay. And so James, the father, wants Michael to, fight him, because that's what men do. Men fight. I want my kids to know how to fight, but they are not to pick the fight in any circumstance. They should try to help stop, they should stop any sort of problems. Somebody's being hurt, somebody's being abused, somebody's being violated. You step in, you stop that shit. But you don't pick fights. But apparently, Michael's getting bullied by this kid. I agree. Their children are off limits. Which is what normal people say. Which is your evidence when you look at the trolls and the things they say. And how they don't just say normal things. But there's this episode. Michael's getting abused. Getting bullied. And so he's supposed to fight the kid. Michael comes home from school on that Friday. It's a Friday. And he's like, well, actually, Mama, Daddy, because, call your daddy, even at 12, 13. 15. He says, well, actually, I invited him to stay the weekend at our house because, I figured, he's only mad and fighting because he doesn't understand what's going on. And if I could help him get better grades, then he'll be a better person. Oh, can I see your phone?
Whether arrest or case or not, I'm just not sure I'm gonna really be of any help. I interviewed the other two kids that were with James that night. Effectively, witnesses, and neither of them had anything to say it's gonna matter. This one thing is kind of weird, actually.
So the kid comes and the kid is jive. He's even smaller than Michael, which is crazy. But he's, he is like, oh, this, that, and he's tough. And there's a few times where, like, and this happens just once an episode, basically, where James goes to take off his belt. And it's, oh, stop. So at some point, the kid sasses James too much or sasses something too much. So James grabs him and takes him back in the back room. And now the kids are sitting around and they're talking about what level of spanking is this guy getting. And there's like 3 levels. There's the ouchie, there's the bad one, and then there's the whole enchilada. And eventually they come out and the kid is walking in. And JJ's like, oh, it looks like he got the whole enchilada. This adult man spanked somebody else's 14-year-old kid with a belt. Like, it's just... It's crazy. But see, the funny thing is, how do you differentiate between, hurting your children for good and a bad good touch and bad touch? How do you convey to somebody that I'm hurting you for a good reason? I'm hurting you because I love you. My wife was not on board with me at first. I being the man, I being the father, I'm supposed to do this. And again, it's how she was raised. And it's not a knock on her. It's not a knock on... It's how we were raised in our society that told us that we were bad parents if we didn't do this. And I was like, you want them spanked, you spank them. And she was like, oh no, I'm not hitting our children. Like, but it's just, and I am proud to say I was fucking right. You better fucking believe I was right. I am more than proud of who my kids are today. Who they are as far as, dealing with shit and of course they're still kids and they're still teenagers and they're still struggling with everyday life and whatnot. But they definitely don't fear their father. And I don't. I'm glad. And they appreciate it too. They know. They understand how her and I were raised. And that they're fortunate to not be spanked. They get it. They don't ever sit there and go, man, I wish you did spank us. And it's a harder road, I'll give you that. The threat of violence is a deterrent for sure. But so is knowledge. Like when they get it. Our kids get it. My kids will tell you flat out. They know that like it's really weird. We're like pushovers in a lot of ways, but we're also strict. We don't let our kids just do whatever the fuck they want. They don't have phones. They don't have, an ability to just go anywhere and do anything and blah, blah, blah. And they'll tell you they appreciate it. They'll tell you they might not like the limits that are always set, but they appreciate the fact that there are limits. My oldest knows that if he didn't have the situation, he'll tell you he'd be a lot worse. If he didn't have the rules that he has, he would be a lot worse. And he's also the type that, like, I know my youngest, it would have went way wrong. Spanking would have went and led to much, much worse situations. And my oldest, I mean, he's the type that if I would have shown him violence his whole life, he'd be beating my ass when he got big enough.
You acted in bad faith. You weren't looking out for the people you agreed to insure. You were looking out for yourself. And New York state law is very clear. Community insurance acted in bad faith. They are on the hook. And I gotta tell you,
If you watched my video last night, you haven't been gone that long, then have you?
your other option. Why don't you come upstairs with us before the jury comes back with a verdict?
Fucking stupid. People even think before they type, or they just type.
Keep their business.
But, you know, oh, that's what I was going to look up. I know I've done this before, but I didn't get very far or something. History of spanking. Oh, that's weird. It doesn't populate for some reason.
About the jury, if you're really convinced that they're going to
Spanking. You don't give your sources. You don't give your sources, so what you say isn't true. You make it up. Spanking is a form of corporal punishment involving the act of striking with either the palm of the hand or an implement the buttocks of a person to cause physical pain. The term spanking broadly encompasses the use of either the hand or implement, though the use of certain implements can also be characterized as other more specific types of corporal punishment, such as belting, caning, paddling, and slippering. Slippering. I wonder where that comes from. Again, this is because the Jays told us to on TV. I bring my kids time. Your kids should be at school. Why would it talk about 9/11? Yup. Yup. You should not become me. You should become the troll that wants to stop people from talking bad about Israel and the Jays and that stuff. You should. I'm the guy that's saying we shouldn't be spanking our kids. You should absolutely be trying to stop me. I'm crazy. Some parents spank children in response to undesired behavior. Adults more commonly spank boys than girls at home and in school. Some countries have outlawed the spanking of children in every setting, including home schools and penal institutions, while others permit it when done by a parent or guardian. In American English, dictionaries define spanking as being administered with either an open hand or an implement such as a paddle. Which is what's fucking just absolutely crazy about it is that it's such a common form of like BDSM and shit. Like, why are we programming our children to like the idea or to engage in a practice that adults do for sexual gratification? Like, isn't that really kind of fucked up when you think about it? What came first? The spanking of children for disciplinary actions? or of the kinky shit. And what if you find out that your kid grows up to be somebody that's real kinky like that and likes being spanked and paddled and all that? What does that tell you about what you did to them?
I know it's him. I know it's her.
That's some really fucked up shit.
I was in the shower. Come on. Start with this plan. Make it really hot in here. Force me to open a window.
You believe in the education system to a degree, yes.
I don't know how he changed the thermostat, but he did that too. They're all connected.
To some degree. I think it's really important that kids have that social interaction more than anything. Learning how to be in a social setting. But as far as the education goes, like I'm not stupid. One of the main reasons why I got bad grades isn't because of stupidity, it's because I didn't do homework. My philosophy was like, you have me for 8 hours. After that, I'm good. I want to do my thing afterward, which was stupid. But like, tests and stuff, I always did well on tests because if you just pay attention, especially usually the day before, they give you some sort of review. So you just pay attention the day before, you can generally do well on tests. But what makes me so great at what I do, and believe me, I do believe I'm great at this. If I practice basketball as much as I do this, and I could sink shots from anywhere I wanted to, I would say I was great at basketball. I'm great at this. And one of the main reasons is because I know the other side. Like most people you argue with, and especially people that talk about earth shape, like anybody that wants to argue flat earth, it's not like they've looked into the other side and they've just successfully been able to debunk it, and all the arguments that are made they have an answer for, and blah, 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 blah. No. Most people that want to argue flat earth or want to argue for the globe earth, barely remember what they learned in school and maybe saw a couple of TV shows in the History Channel since then. They haven't looked into the shit. They don't know anything about that stuff. But even when you do, again, knowing what they want you to know doesn't necessarily mean it's true. But you at least, you have these foundations that you can build from. So the educational system will provide you that. A foundation. But at 25, my son says it's weird to spank him. See? You try to give somebody the credit and let them speak, but that's what happens. Literally, in my school doing work, like I don't get paid at home. Exactly. Show us the helicopter experiment where it stays still, not the Earth rotating below. I mean, I don't even know what the fuck you're even talking about. Oh. We did a whole big thing on gravity and all that shit yesterday, and it's just amazing. It's amazing how, like, defiantly dumb people are. Adamantly, like, no, I'm stupid. No. When gravity is proven by dropping the lighter, and it's gravity because it doesn't go up or in any other direction. Gravity pulls it down. It's such a dumb argument. Why would it go up? What would be propelling it, propulsion-wise, to make it go up? I mean, at the very least say when you let it go, it should just sit there and not move. And the gravity is what pulls it down. That would have been at least been a better argument than saying, well, why doesn't it go up? But, you know, it's just really, really like, it's like when I go to look up, why doesn't the International Space Station fall down?
I guess in his head I was supposed to.
And the first thing the answer does is talk about Isaac Newton and how he theorized that if you shot a cannonball from a high enough point and shot it fast enough, it would go around the earth forever. And he said that it's gravity that brings the cannonball down to the earth when it's shot out of a cannon. And I'm like, this guy's supposed to be one of the greatest minds of all time, and that is stupid. That's stupid. The cannonball falls to the ground because of the weight and because the energy used to propel it runs out. It's not because a force is pulling it down. Come on, Isaac. Let's see. The burden of proof is on you. The burden of proof is on the person claiming we live on a round ball flying through space. Literally look up at any hovering helicopter. The earth doesn't move under it. Yeah, that's not even an argument I was even going to entertain. It's a dumb one. Simple fluid mechanics. I'm not having this conversation, and then says simple fluid mechanics. Like, this is where it's always strange how arrogance kicks in, right? You know, the person telling me that, no, it's okay to have the fertilizer byproduct in the water at safe levels. As long as it's at safe levels, then it's okay. It's like, well, who decided what was safe levels? And if you think about it, like, if fluoride might give a 3% chance of cavity prevention, well, what's the other 97% of the reason why we put toxic waste byproduct, fertilizer creation byproduct into our drinking water? The arrogance in thinking that, oh, I know better because, you know, the system said that safe levels are this, and I'm repeating, as long as it's at a safe level. The arrogance in thinking something like, well, fluid mechanics, well, the blah, blah, blah. None of that shit matters. It doesn't matter what kind of dumb shit you're told. What can you do? How do you prove things? Gravity is stupid. I'm not an idiot. The earth is flat. So why doesn't it just float if there's no force spring? If there's no force, why doesn't it just float if there's, how are people that stupid? This is heavier than this. You see the nothing that's here? This is heavier than the air below it. So it falls down. But if you drop it on a piece of, on the beach, like let's say you take it to the desert, right? Where the ground is made of sand. Where all you got to do is like push your finger in a little bit and it'll sink into the sand. If you drop the lighter on the ground, does it continue to work its way down because the force is pulling it? Is that how that works? No. No, that's the answer. No. Why does the force stop pulling things when they come in contact with the ground? Belch. Are you high? Yeah, I'm I'm not the one talking and live streaming.
Now and see if you qualify for up to $50,000.
Why would you, again, Matt, I know you don't like being told what to do, but why would you get involved in these conversations with these trolls whose job it is to fuck with you? Like, it's their job. They're working. It doesn't. Then you get settlement over time. Okay, but why doesn't it keep getting pulled into the center of the earth? You're saying the force is what brings it down, not the weight of the object. This is just such a dumb conversation. Do you know that you only walk because you've like trained yourself how to do it? What we do walking is such a crazy thing. And you know how you can tell? Watch a little kid learning how to do it. It's clearly not easy for us to do it. We just learn how. But our heavy ass bodies, you know, they just would be piles on the ground if we didn't know how to walk. But hey, I'm just defying gravity. Whoop, look at me defy gravity. There's just no point in these conversations. You got the thing is, you guys don't ever answer the questions. You guys say dumb shit. We debunk what you say. But then when it's your turn to answer for shit, you just don't. Because you can't. If the force is pulling the thing, why doesn't it keep pulling it? What about the ground stops the force? The force can only pull equal to the weight of the object. With sand, the lighter will fall until an equivalent weight of sand pushes up against it. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. You're saying that see, this is where it's like, I know what you're told to think, but the fact that you believe it is the problem. Instead of being like a reasonable human being and just saying, yes, the weight of the lighter is heavier than the air around it, you think a force is pulling it down. Now, you also believe that you can fill a balloon with helium. And that then makes the balloon lighter than the air around it, which you think then tricks gravity. Gravity is like, shit, how do I pull this down? I mean, I can grab it with my hands and put it on the ground, no problem. Just some helium, it's nothing. But the gravity that pulls everything, I mean, it's not even a conversation that you can have. Because you guys just don't say anything that matters. Yeah, planes work, right. Planes. Boats are filled with helium. Yep, boats are filled with helium, yeah. I mean, these are just dumb arguments. If you think there's a magical force pulling everything down and you still think planes can fly, I don't know what to tell you. It's just crazy. It's crazy to think about it. And then to think that you think gravity does two completely different things. That's probably one of the best parts, right? Like, you don't think like, you know, I can't even come up with something. Thinking that gravity makes things stick to the ball until you get a certain distance away, and if you're in a vacuum, then it makes those same things, now it makes balls revolve around each other. And then it makes those balls revolve around the sun. And comets, like the idea that gravity knows how much pressure to keep on Earth, how much pressure to keep on Venus, How is it that gravity can hold the big planets in their orbit but not pull the other planets in? Wouldn't it take Miss Physics? If gravity is the force holding the big giant planets in their orbit, right? It would take a strong force to hold the bigger the object you would think, the more force it would take to hold it to the thing that's spinning around, right?
Depends on how close the bigger one was. The further away from the spinning thing, it would definitely need more force.
Okay, so how is it gravity knows to put the force on the big planets enough to hold them in their orbit, but doesn't suck the other shit inside? Because you would think it would take more force to hold Jupiter where it is than to hold Earth where it is. So then it's got to be exuding that force out. So why isn't everything inside that force bubble, which would essentially get stronger as you get closer to the sun? Why isn't it pulling everything in?
I'm just trying to picture it.
Right. It's because the narrative we're given is so dumb, but we've all accepted it. Never been encouraged to question it.
It's definitely not going to pick and choose an object and change the amount of force it's sucking in with.
But it would have to have a constant, specific amount of force to keep Jupiter where it is, or else Jupiter would go flying off.
Right.
So then anything smaller than Jupiter, closer than Jupiter, would have to be pulled in.
Okay, so if the smaller planets are spinning faster, they're also putting a greater force against the force that's pulling them, keeping them in their place.
But
So
it wouldn't matter how much force that is. No, that's not a variable. If you're talking about a marble compared to a fucking, a giant.
The big thing is moving slowly, so it's got less force pushing against.
It's not moving slowly. And we're talking about mass. But we're talking about mass. The weight of the object would be like the weight of a Jupiter, even though it's a gas giant. But
now you're also taking into account that it is in the vacuum of space.
Right.
So there's no gravity out there.
No, there is.
So
The gravity. No, the gravity.
they do on Earth.
Gravity has to be actively holding those things in their place, according to the narrative. What is keeping the planet revolving in its orbit? Gravity. The sun's gravity is what keeps all these things in their orbit, supposedly. So how would the sun know to put, how would you be able to put the force over there without I'm pulling everything, but I'm not pulling these things as tight, but it's all in the same, it's just stupid. It's a stupid thought. This is why they don't encourage you to do it. You start thinking about these things and whatever gravity would be necessary to hold Jupiter in its orbit would suck everything else in. But it doesn't suck things in, right? It keeps them revolving. It really is stupid. And it's not only this pulling, but the other planets are pushing as well. I mean, it's just crazy it's crazy the arrogance people have, acting like they've seen it all. No, dude, I was out there and I could see it, man. I could see how Jupiter wanted to fly off, right? But then Saturn is pushing on it, and the other they were all pushed, so you could see it. Jupiter was trying, bro. But it stayed in its place. No, it didn't. Everything stayed in its place. And it stays in its place, or at least in its rotations, doing its spinning, the exact same way forever.
Not a training site. What do you do?
There's no deviation, no nothing.
Sit there and wait
Nothing changes.
for the train to come.
Me, I'm going to probably sit there.
It's all supposedly moving, but none of it changes.
Mr. Cologne, where are you looking?
I mean, it's
Your eyes front. And let's move this thing along. We'd like to
it's Hollywoodism. It really is Hollywoodism. It's a fantastic story that
passenger number 8.
it's almost designed to break you, right?
Do you have something you'd like
You're supposed to be focusing on this impossibility. It's impossible.
It would certainly be easier for me to do my job if I could sit.
As far as you know in your existence, what they tell you to believe is impossible on all sides, whether it's the Jesus side or it's the Big Bang science side. You're talking about flat out impossibility, stupid nonsense that you just solely have to trust the system that you know lies all the fucking time. The same system that currently tells you Israel is the good guy, Israel is the victim, is also the system that tells you the earth is round. And that putting the byproduct from fertilizer production in your drinking water is good for you because it has a 3% chance of preventing cavities, maybe. Again, I'm really kind of getting stuck on this one. What
are
else
they
does it
supposed-
do?
What else are they supposed to do with that?
But what
Bury
else?
it in our ground?
But what else do they
Poison
do
our-
with it?
Our soil?
But what else does it do to us? You can't tell me that fluoride literally will eat our skin away and all that in concentrated amounts. It's really toxic. But the only other thing it does is maybe strengthen our enamel on our teeth. It doesn't affect our bodies in any other way.
Right. Bullshit.
Especially after being built up after years and years of drinking it and it being present everywhere in your body. You're telling me that has nothing to do with the rise in cancers, with the rise in nerve elements? Like, think about, they started fluoridating things in the 60s, I believe, here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, 66, I think. 72% of the American population now drinks fluoridated water. There are no real, like, conclusive or well-funded, large-scale government studies on the effectiveness of it. They didn't like start doing it because there was this huge study that went into it and they figured out that unequivocally, fluoride is good for it. They never did that.
always have been, always will be. You pervert the jury's system.
And we just assume that all of these things, the sun is bad. It's the sun that's causing all these cancers. It's the it's what? It's your cell phone. It's this, it's that, it's everything, but it's not that fluoride that we're forced to have in our water. And like Angela says, what would they do with it? You create toxic waste. What do you then do with it? You realize, like, every single thing you've ever bought in your life, it exists. It's somewhere. All the garbage you've ever thrown away, it doesn't just, you don't throw it in the trash and then the truck comes and gets it and then blink, 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 it's gone. They just literally sweep it under the rug.
Well, all these companies that get caught dumping toxic waste into rivers and streams and, and they get fined and then they tell them they have to take care of it another way. What do you think that other way is? What way can they dispose of toxic waste that doesn't affect our food by way of soil that it's grown in or grazed upon or whatever, or our water supply?
If they could dispose of it easily and properly, why would they go through all the trouble
What
of...
would proper be? What does proper
But I'm just
look
saying,
like?
if they could do something good with it, why wouldn't they just do that from the beginning?
The expense. That's always
But even if
the
it was,
reason.
even if it is the expense, that doesn't, there's still the expense of disposing of it improperly. And then you get caught And then there's all the legislation and all the buyout and everything. But if you could just dispose of it properly, I mean, you're gonna, if it's toxic waste, it's gonna affect you and your children too. So it would behoove of you to do it. Why wouldn't they if they could? That's the point. If they could, like you said, there is no proper way of disposing of it. But if they could, they would. Instead, they figured out a way to sell it to the government so that it could be used. I mean, it's just so strange thing. And I like every single one of you. You might have the misconception that fluoride is good for your teeth. I get it. If I ask you where does fluoride come from and you go, you know what, I don't really know. And I ask you why do they put it in our water and you go, it's good for our teeth, right? I get it. At that point, I get it. Once you know that the Cochrane study, which is the main only real study, shows that it might have a 36% chance of preventing cavities in baby teeth, and it might have a 26% chance of preventing cavities in adults, but they don't really know. And the other study that they did said it's more like 3%. Both numbers, 3% and 20%, aren't those aren't real numbers. Like, you can't say that something is 20% effective. 26% effective. Whatever. You can't, especially not 3% effective. These are chance numbers. These numbers don't, these numbers are going to happen by chance anyway. So you just can't, it's not a viable study, but
the variable of genetics is just too huge.
Right. Or other sources. I mean, those however many thousands of 3,000 people you study, they don't have the exact same diet. They don't have the exact same factors, just factors, genetics and all that other shit. You don't know. But to think that anybody in their right mind is going to sit here and hear these facts, this is the facts. You can go find it for yourself. You can't find anything to the contrary. I never get the credit I deserve for blindly going into things like, okay, I guess I'll go read the Cochrane study itself, not just the Wikipedia, because Wikipedia is not a good source. Okay, fine, I'll read the actual study, what the study says. Oh, look, the study actually made it worse than the Wikipedia page. Right? Like, now what? Where does it go from there? What are the chances that you even know anything about this to begin with? And then what are the chances? What? Pfizer just released a list of side effects of its.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but I don't know how true this is.
Okay, look at that list and then look it up.
I get it, but these are the things where, as much as it might be true, I don't know if Pfizer actually released the list, so I can't sit here and say Pfizer released it. But yeah, this is all the same.
All the same.
It is. It's all the same shit. You knew all that. There's shit you didn't know of, but
oh God, it's bad. Bad.
And it's the same thing. It's like, what did they say? The shots had like a what was it? Do you remember what the percentage was of that they said the shots would protect you? It had a blah blah percent effectiveness rate, which again, you can't possibly test for. That's the whole thing. They just trick you. You can't take somebody and say from 2010 to 2015, this person did this and this shit happened. And then go back and be like, all right, now we're going to have this person go from 2012 to 2015, 2010 to 2015 again. But this time they're going to have the shots. That's the only way you could accurately do an experiment like that, and you can't. That's impossible.
This is so strange. Like spending your whole life sleeping on the left side of the bed and suddenly switching.
The reality is, based on what they were telling you guys
Had fled the defendant's home. How many times did he
in 2020, based on what the Trump, it's crazy too how everything about that is somehow being blamed on Fauci, right? Fauci is the guy. It's all Fauci's fault. Never mind that Fauci was disappeared for like 2 months. Somewhere's around like May, June of 2020, Fauci is just disappeared. And then about 2 months later, his first interview back is with some podunk little New York, maybe it was New York, little radio station or something. And she points out, isn't it strange how just a couple months ago you were the president's right-hand man, and now we're this small little station is the only station willing to talk? Some shit like that, right? And of course, you have the two Faucis. You have the one that doesn't wear glasses, that has the more broad shoulders, and the one that does wear glasses that has the rounded shoulders. Let's not talk. It's Trump. I mean, it's not Trump. It's Fauci. Fauci is the reason why the country was shut down. Fauci is the reason this. Fauci is the reason, and not Trump. It wasn't the most powerful man in the world.
You asked me to come here. I have no further questions for this witness.
Good morning, Officer Czar.
But that's,
Are you familiar with the technique known as phone spoofing? Yes. And isn't it true
it's crazy to think about like what was happening in 2019 and how that first in the beginning of 2019, just like they're doing now, they tried to get us to be scared of the measles. Run out and get your pokes for the measles because the measles could kill you, blah, blah, blah. All this crazy propaganda bullshit. And then we were supposed to be concerned with Michael Jackson, dead Michael Jackson.
you don't actually know for a fact it was Eric?
Not Epstein, not the Epstein Trump connection, not that case that was actually being heard.
Multiple complaints to the NYPD that
None of that. We should be locked down.
was hacking into every aspect of her technology, including her phone. Yes.
It's the same. So back then they were telling you guys
That Mr. Kurtz hacked
that people like my family
security system
who don't wear masks, who hug each other,
multiple occasions.
who like it's crazy because a really great experiment was done. It wasn't a controlled experiment, but my mother-in-law unintentionally, had an experiment done right in front of her. She had our crazy family who didn't play along other than how we were forced to. Weren't going to get any sort of shots whatsoever. Didn't wear our masks, didn't do all that shit. And then we had my brother-in-law's family who believed every fucking second of it. Ran out and got every goddamn shot, booster. They were supposed to get everything. They would come home from going places and everyone would strip down. The clothes would be taken immediately down to the washing machine, thrown in the washer, and then everyone would have to take turns real quick showering so they could wash all that COVID off.
The fucked up thing is that, my brother and I grew up together, clearly. And he knew what a science nerd I was. He knew I was, when I went to college, I was in pre-med. Like, he knew.
Plus, he's super smart.
Plus, he's super smart. So, he was so, mad and disappointed in me for being so against it that it was, really giving him confusion. He was really disputed within himself because here his science sister isn't listening to these doctors, even though she wanted to be a doctor.
Yeah, but he's thought you were crazy for years.
But this was a different thing. That's
I don't
why
think-
he had such a hard time talking with us about
No,
it.
he had a hard time talking about it because he there was nothing to say, especially being somebody as smart as him. He knows he can't make any real arguments.
It was a very big
But
bad
so
place between us for that whole time.
this family who plays by all the rules and condemns, attacks those that don't, they got sick multiple times throughout.
He was in the hospital twice.
He was in the
almost put him
hospital-
on a ventilator the one time.
Right. In the hospital twice and almost on the ventilator. Both times was within a week or two of getting the booster.
When are you supposed to enroll in Medicare?
And every time they would get sick, it would be shortly after they got whatever it was they were supposed to be getting protected from
I don't
injected
know.
into their bodies.
I don't know if the kids ever got COVID, but both of them got COVID
Well,
throughout that time.
I mean,
at least once.
which would mean if you believe in germs and you believe things work the way that we think they do,
Oh, but they both worked during the lockdown, so they were exposed.
but then the kids would have had it. And if the kids had any sort of sniffles or any sort of anything, they would have said they had it. So, but you had these people who, literally almost lost their lives over it. And you would think that even if they did fall for it and did all that stupid shit, you would think now, here we are in 2025, all four of us survived, never made it to the hospital, never got, all of us got sick once during that time. Like other than the day or two colds, whatever that the kids go through.
Time and season change, and that is a normal seasonal cold.
I don't believe in that either. I don't believe in that either because I don't get sick like that. But you would think that with as much shit as they talked, with as terrified as they were, I mean, I would imagine at some point they were literally like scared for us. Like they had our best interests in mind and they were scared and thought we were going to die and blah, blah,
I was
blah.
at Meyer that one time and had that crowd of people around me.
Yeah, but I'm not talking
You would
about
have
them.
thought that on the news within the next few days, there would have been a huge number of cases from the Livonia Meyer came up with COVID. We have to find patient zero.
But
I
I'm
would have
talking
gotten so
about your
many
brother and your family, the way that they responded. Like you would think, knowing what they did and what we did, and knowing the outcomes of it, you would think after the fact they'd be like, you know what, you guys were right. We thought for sure you'd be dead. Not only did you not die, you didn't get sick. Not only did you not die and get sick, your kids don't have any of the medical problems that a lot of kids are facing.
I know nobody in my family ended up in the fucking hospital during that time.
You'd think that would be the case. And yet when they bring COVID back this year, next fall, you better believe they're going to be the first ones to run out and do it. It's terrifying to think that they literally did it to us. And everyone saw that what they said wasn't true. Where were all the dead homeless people? Oh, the homeless people, well, they have a really strong immune system from being homeless. Duh. If you believe that shit, then why isn't that telling you that you should probably be like, if they're so protected that they don't need something you need a shot for, that's pretty scary. But you also have this idea of like, how is it that they can trick you into taking something to protect you that you still think people that didn't take it can get to you. Like, aren't you protected now? Once you get your shot, you should be able to go into the COVID wing of the hospital and like laugh at everybody that didn't take their shots, right? Shouldn't it protect you? Isn't that why you took it? To protect you? Yeah, I bought this umbrella. Fucking first time it rained. I opened it up and it was just the brand, the sticks, the arms, there was no webbing in between. I got soaked. It's a great fucking umbrella. I'm gonna use it again next time. Why the fuck were you using that umbrella? You got wet. Yeah, but I really believe, I believe it works. I believe the government sold it. The government told me this was the umbrella that works.
Why do we use metal in umbrellas if lightning is attracted to metal?
I don't know, because people don't get hit by lightning with umbrellas, I guess.
Did he ever behave aggressively towards you? No, absolutely
I
not.
was wondering.
Out of curiosity,
Most people were smart enough to understand they took it to protect others.
never met her.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So you think
Getting
You can-
yourself sick.
you can have COVID on you can have it, but because you have the poke, you're protected, but it's still on you and getting other people sick.
What about the scientific fact of shedding for the 2 weeks following getting the vaccine? Any vaccine, you then shed it off of you for up to 2 weeks after getting it. What about that? Does that protect everybody around you too?
Well, I mean, you like the average dum-dum.
And why would your body shed it? Think about that.
The average dum-dum thinks that you're getting like a magic concoction of like chemicals and stuff that are gonna make your like almost like steroids, right?
No,
But you
it
don't-
bombard your immune system with the fucking
But you don't get
virus.
they
so your immune system builds.
the narrative is that they give it to you. That's what it does. They give it to you. They give it a live, they call it a live virus or a dead virus, which the dead one is like, it's not, it's just, they use formaldehyde and shit, like,
Retrovirus.
but they inject you with what they say is like a smaller, weaker dose of it, so your body starts building up the antibodies to be able to defend against it if you actually get it. They're giving it to you.
And then your body tries to shut it off. Like, get this the fuck out of me.
And what you find, despite what they tell you, is that most of the people that end up in the hospital were people that did something, that had some sort of shot, some sort of something. You know, it's not the people that didn't get anything.
We have a friend that the doctor accidentally gave them the wrong vaccine. You know, when you weren't supposed to mix manufacturers' vaccines, and they gave her the wrong ones.
Well, they gave it into 2 stages,
right,
and you were supposed to get the one and then the other, like the subject and then the predicate.
Either the Pfizer one or the other one, though. You couldn't mix Pfizer with the other one because their formulas were different. You know, in their two different doses. But the doctor fucked up and gave her the wrong one. And now, like, she's fucking gone off the deep end since she's had those shots. Like, she's mentally, like, lost her mind. And now she's fucking totally crazy and divorced and, you know, abusing substances. And I'm sorry, but there's a correlation there. We don't know what that shit's doing to your brains.
It's it. I mean, there's just too many questions. There's just too much about it that, like, why do you believe it? You know, in 1976, they flat out lied. And it's Dr. David Sensor. Like, you can go look the whole narrative up. It's well documented. They flat out lied and told people that they were going to get sick, and 46 million plus Americans went out and got it, not to mention however many people worldwide, only for them to be like, well, it never really existed. And then suddenly we have this huge spike in SIDS. And then as SIDS is going down, what you now call, I don't want to say the word, the A word, those numbers start going up. Like as they got the formula correct. But hey, no, don't worry. No, don't think about that shit, right? Don't think about that shit. Don't make the connections where there are connections. Only listen to the people that benefit from you listening to them. It's really fucking crazy. You know? It's really just nuts. And you have to ask yourself, why, if the 1976 swine flu was a coronavirus, why is it in 2019 the government didn't say to you, hey, don't worry about it. There's this thing going around, but back in 76 we had a similar coronavirus, so we were able to get rid of it through our V program. And just don't worry, we got it. Just everybody needs to just be careful, come get your thing, and, you know, we'll take care of this. Why did they go back in 1919 and 1918? The Spanish flu killed 25 million people worldwide. Blah. Why did they do that? And these are just simple things where, like, this is just common sense stuff where I don't expect the trolls to answer for any of it. You know, it's because of the 76 swine flu vaccination program that the Fauci character was created. Because they didn't have a liaison, a single person that was there to represent the system. So multiple narratives were getting put out because multiple people were being interviewed, and they said, we need to nip that in the bud. It was their practice run. And they figured out that they needed a Fauci, and that's where the Fauci character came from. It's really, I mean,
You talk about this all the time.
it's not like it's hard to figure it out.
I'm so glad other people are finding.
Dirty Dancing is a different movie when you watch it as a parent. Baby's dad wasn't unreasonable. She was 17 and sneaking around with a Catskills dance instructor who had anger issues and looks like he's at least 40.
Exactly.
It's disgusting.
Fucking disgusting.
And
when I was a kid and it came out, it was so romantic.
Because you were told it was romantic.
And then as an adult, I'm like, ew. Yeah, her dad should have done more, goddammit.
And all the adults should have been saying.
All of the adults
and
at the
kids,
party that she's in there dancing with the man should have been like, get the fuck out of here.
But even you as a 17-year-old girl, shouldn't be interested in a dude that old. So what? You as a 17-year-old girl should have been raised to know that if a fucking man that old is interested in you, it's not right. It's nothing wrong with you, but there's something wrong with him. I mean, I just think it's crazy how insanely arrogant and stupid people are. And you can just, like, it's like an overlay, right? It's like the animation cell. There's the background and then the animation cell goes over it. And you can put that same ignorant, arrogant animation cell over any of these same topics. Whether it's space, whether it's submarines, whether it's you know, the Israel stuff, the Hollywood stuff, the pedo stuff. And you just get the same fucking unbelievable stupidity in every aspect. And it's just irritating, and it's telling. It's, you can see why and how it happens. It reminds me of children. It reminds me of Israelis. I mean, that's one of the craziest parts of this, right? Like, if you just look around and you look at how Israelis speak, how Israelis, communicate and debate and whatnot, you see it. It's the same thing that happens on my page. Just childish, stupid nonsense. Let me see if I can find something. Mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Where is it? Has that video been taken down? I think it has been. The Israeli girls arguing with the Asian guy, and they can't make any arguments, so they start getting all stupid about it. Oh, here you go.
It is true of spinning objects in space. So a deck of cards makes some very interesting games, demonstrations that you can do in space. No.
Oh, it fell. That can't happen in space. Why did it fall? Why did the other one stay put, but that one fell? Okay, look at, yeah.
Right here, and the guy next to him just reaches up and grabs a harness that's right.
That is a harness.
I gotta pause it real quick. I want to pause it because
Look at the guy in the blue.
funniest part to me. Well, there's several funny parts, by the way. But the lady in the background with the hair.
Yeah.
It's like, did someone not think that, like we've got to make her hair look like that, right? It's got to be standing up.
Yeah.
Dude, it is hard as a rock. It's not moving.
Yeah.
You know, it's like this is we must be in space. Look at her hair. Like obviously, there's this thing called hairspray. Here goes this guy doing a backflip, and
then gravity gravity goes away. It must have found a pocket.
Gravity goes away and he fell.
Yeah.
Or he got caught up in that harness he's wearing. Here comes the one with senior.
Yeah.
In the background.
Yeah.
Holy hell.
And it's obviously
Here's an arrow.
A guy filming with a green tennis ball in front of a blue screen.
Right. Clearly, I mean, it's not even.
And then here's a clip of what they turned it into.
Here's this water particle. Yep. Wow.
This guy just disappears like, makes sense.
Disappears.
Yeah, I'm good to go. Hey, I gotta go. Yeah, what we got back there? Another green screen.
And this guy,
the ones where they're doing the, he's
Right.
hanging his shirt, like you can see, like,
it's not even
you can clearly see the artist. It's like if you take your hands right now and you grab your shirt and you just pull out.
Yeah.
Like it's. Yeah. This one's my favorite right
the
here.
green
The guy goes to reach for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a dude.
But what's their thing at the end? This guy's always in it, man. He's the biggest clown. Yeah.
He's the worst.
He's grabbing the harness.
We gotta get you out of here, bro. You're butter.
Look at this.
Let me reach up there. Oh wait. Oh, kung fu.
I'm gonna pause it real quick. So
we have to. We gotta expand.
So I imagine this guy in the green that's doing this flip. Like when they're practicing, they're like, "Oh, this guy's got the shit, man. He nails every flip, and you can never tell, right?" So he's like the practice king of flips. But then whenever they go to film it, he gets nervous and he spoofs it up and grabs his harness because he is the most.
He's Ray Finkel.
Yeah, terrible, man.
Ray Finkel.
zo verletterd bij de rust, maar interessante systemen. Hier achter deze panelen wordt de
Toilet.
benzine opgevangen. En
Hear that? The screw fell. The screw fell out. You know, because gravity's holding him around, floating all around, but then the screw, nope.
wordt de benzine opgevangen. En
Oops. It didn't just float away.
I'm conscious of the brokenness. People all over the place to see. I hate to see. Space is not a place you see. It's fake. It's only make believe. Constellations prove that the earth doesn't move, but the liars on wires want to take away the truth. I'm screaming.
Wake up, you need to wake up, you need to wake up, you need to wake.
Yeah, all that stuff, I made that up too. The NASA fails videos, there are just so fucking many of them. And you would think there's going to be. If you're doing thousands and thousands of fake videos, eventually you're going to screw up. Like, how does anybody see those videos of those guys? You're right, guy for president in 2028. We get these Jays out of our country. But how many different times do you got to see him grab the harnesses? It's like, how come you're not insulted and pissed off? How come you're mad at me because the evidence that you have is shit? But you also know, like, if I was sitting here talking about the benefits of unicorn poop, nobody would be here. There wouldn't be a bunch of fake fucking goofy profiles. Oh, we do have lines. Bunch of goofy fake profiles trying to tell people to believe the narrative. It's just interesting too how once you see it, it's just like anything else. Like, you get used to it, right? And so you just slowly get better at it. Without even trying, you just get better and better at seeing things. And when it comes to all this shit, it's like it's not even a... You know, nobody has to tell me. Oh, yeah, no, it's like, look at it, it's fake. It's fake. There shouldn't be anything like that. If it's real, there shouldn't be any evidence against. But it's just like anti-Semitism, right? Anti-Semitism, you're told, like, people will argue that's not anti-Semitism. We should be allowed to, that's not anti-Semitism. It's not, like, people will argue that over and over again, instead of just embracing it and being like, fuck yeah, that's anti-Semitism. I am absolutely opposed to policy and predisposition favorable to anyone, let alone the piece of shit Jays. But you have all of these different layers of the deception which prevent you from getting to that point, to where you just embrace it and be like, there's nothing wrong with me not supporting this cult. I hate all religion, but I especially hate this cult. This one's the worst. It has nothing to do with any particular, like, you killed my Jesus or anything like that. No, it's based on what you guys do. It's disgusting. It's horrible. Yeah. There's no, like, personal sort of feelings. Like, no, you guys are horrible, horrible people. And even if you yourself don't partake in all of the horrible, horrible stuff, you still support it. And you fight and you get mad and you tell and you do everything you can to stop people from pointing out the horrible stuff instead of trying to fix the horrible stuff so that those people don't have that thing to point out anymore. That's across the board. Oh, well, not all of them do it. Yeah, but they all protect it. But like this notion that as a human being you shouldn't hate them. You know. I mean, you have a society that has basically told you, basically, not flat out, but basically told you it's more than okay to hate Muslims. And you've most of you have just accepted it, ran with it. Like, yeah, that's cool. But you don't hate the people that are doing the worst of the worst. How does that even happen? How do you let other people tell you what you're allowed to hate? Yeah, I know you're seeing videos of us doing horrible shit left and right just all day long, but you're not allowed to hate us. We don't accept you. You're not a part of our thing. We look at you like you're a slave. Why would you ever hate us? Back to spanking. Dictionary, blah, blah. In British English, most dictionaries define spanking as being given only with the open hand. In the UK, Ireland, Australia, and New Zealand, the word smacking is generally used in preference to spanking when describing striking with an open hand rather than with an implement, whereas a spanking is invariably administered to the bottom. A smacking is less specific and may refer to slapping the child's hands, arms, or legs as well as its bottom. In the home, here's a representation from 1895 of a mother spanking her child on the bare bottom with a hairbrush for breaking the vase. Well, I can't show this because it's a kid's fucking butt. You can actually see his butthole. Look at that. That's fucking horrible. 1895. Somebody thought that was a good idea. Portrait of a mother spanking her child from the 1920 parenting book of Correcting That Correct. Or Corrections That Correct. Go ahead, hit him. Parents commonly spank their children as a form of corporal punishment in the United States. However, support for this practice appears to be declining amongst U.S. parents. Spanking is typically done with one or more slaps on the child's buttocks with a bare hand, although not uncommonly various objects are used to spank children, such as a hairbrush or wooden spoon. Think about that. How did everybody know to use the wooden spoon? Where did it come from? My grandmother brought it with her, where did that come from? Of all the objects in the house, a wooden spoon is something that everybody just happened to just pick? Like, where did that come from? Historically, adults have spanked boys more than girls in the United States. Adults commonly spank toddlers the most. The main reasons parents give for spanking their children are making children more compliant and to promote better behavior, especially to put a stop to their children's apparent aggressive behaviors. Did you just hear that?
No, I missed it.
The main reasons parents give for spanking their children are to make children more compliant and to promote better behavior, especially to put a stop to their children's apparent aggressive behaviors.
Yeah.
Yeah. You correct aggression
Fight violence.
with aggression.
Right.
Makes so much sense. However, research has shown that spanking or any other form of corporal punishment is associated with the opposite effect. When adults physically punish children, the children tend to obey parents less with time and develop more aggressive behaviors, including towards other children. What a surprise. So wait. If you're not teaching your children how to deal with complicated and stressful situations with talking and reasoning, you're teaching them to hit. They're going to hit? Huh. Where do they get it from? That's weird. Must be that, you know what it is? It's the music videos. It's the video games. It's the music videos. It's the stuff with black people that shows all that violence. That's what's making kids violent. Yeah. I mean, think about the movie A Christmas Story, right? When Ralphie gets in trouble for swearing, he doesn't say, duh, you dumb bitch, I heard it from my dad. He's the furnace fighter. You hear is rock'em, frac'em, frac'em, shrick'em, froc'em, shrick'em, right? You heard that, right? You've heard him say all those things before, right? Where do you think? No, I learned it from Flick. And then Flick's mom goes, what? What? And just starts beating the shit out of her kid on the phone. And the mom's like, ooh, and hangs up. And Flick's going, what'd I do? What'd I do? But that's okay. That's how you parent. We need to make America great again. We need to go back to that time. The black people are so well represented in that movie. Remember Leron? In that, remember Leroy in A Christmas Story?
Yeah. Yeah. He was
At least they didn't make the bad guys black guys.
right.
The increase in aggressive behavior appears to reflect the child's perception that hitting is a way to deal with anger and frustration. I mean, holy shit. Like, I make a joke, but how do you not know that? Weren't you a kid at one point? Don't you remember what it was like to get spanked? Do you honestly tell yourself that when you got spanked as a kid, that corrected your behavior because you then realized what you did wrong? There are also many adverse physical, mental, and emotional effects correlated with spanking and other forms of corporal punishment, including various physical injuries, increased anxiety, depression, and antisocial behavior. Adults who were spanked during their childhood are more likely to abuse their children and spouse. The American Academy of Pediatrics, AAP, Royal College of Pediatrics and Child Health, RCPCH, and the Royal Australian College of Physicians, RACP, all recommend that no child should be spanked and instead favor the use of effective, healthy forms of discipline. Additionally, the AAP recommends that primary care providers, e.g., pediatricians and family medicine physicians, begin to discuss parents' discipline methods no later than 9 months of age and consider initiating such discussions by 3-4 months of age. These types of discussions should be being had long before the child is born. Do you honestly think about being 19, 20, whatever it is, and happening to have a colicky baby or something? You are not prepared to deal with that emotionally. You just have no fucking idea what that's going to be like. That's a level of stress that most people cannot handle. By 8 months of age, 5% of parents report spanking, and 5% report starting to spank by age 3 months.
Much hot water. A shower.
Jesus Christ, what are you spanking a 3-month-old baby for? What? Hope those people were arrested. The AAP also recommends that pediatricians discuss effective discipline strategies and counsel parents about the ineffectiveness of spanking and the risks of harmful effects associated with the practice to minimize harm to children and guide parents. Although parents and other advocates of spanking often claim that spanking is necessary to promote child discipline, which is just stupid. Again, how does that correlate? The only time you ever get spanked as an adult is sexually. When you get in trouble as an adult, you get grounded. You get all your shit taken away. I mean, you might get beat up by psychos if you go that far. But that's beat up. They're not spanking your butt. They're beating you up. There is no connection between spanking and discipline that makes any sort of sense whatsoever. Although parents and other discipline, studies have shown that parents tend to apply physical punishment inconsistently and tend to spank more often when they are angry or under stress. Exactly. One of the big reasons for me doing that is stopping spanking is because I refused to spank them when I was upset. And once you're not upset anymore, then the idea of hitting your kid doesn't make any sense. And I even tried it, you know. I tried, like, you do this, you're going to get a spanking when you get home, as sort of a disciplinary preventive measure. And it didn't work. And then I had to spank this kid that I didn't want to spank because I had to, you know, I had to do what I said I was going to do. You got to do what you say you're going to do. The use of corporal punishment by parents increases the likelihood that children will suffer physical abuse. In most documented cases of physical abuse in Canada and the United States begin as disciplinary spankings. If a child is frequently spanked, this form of corporal punishment tends to become less effective at modifying behavior over time, also known as extinction. In response to the decreased effectiveness of spanking, some parents increase the frequency or severity of spanking or use an object. I mean, when I was a kid, I can remember begging my teachers not to call my mom because I was going to get a spanking. One day I got it so fucking bad that I was literally black and blue. My mom was particularly drunk that night and really went hard. And I came to school the next day with a big pillow so I could sit on it throughout the day in school. And everybody knew, the teacher knew. Like I had to sit on. I brought the pillow to school because, you know, you called them and I told you that was gonna happen. And it wasn't like anybody called CPS or anything like that. It was a bad one. You know, it was a Friday that I had to go to school, so you know, I would have had that pillow for a few days. Alternatives to spankings. In schools. Medieval representation of a schoolboy being birched. That's pretty gross.
Birched with a
birch branch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Birch is really hard one.
Drawing from 1820 in pokey, and lots of little fingers on that, with each one with little pokes on them. Drawing from 1821, showing a school teacher from Rome spanking a student. Look at that face. Look at the faces of the children, and then look at the face of the kids, and it's just awful. Corporal punishment, usually delivered with an implement such as a paddle or a cane, rather than with an open hand, used to be a common form of school discipline in many countries, but it is now banned in most of the Western world. Oh, yeah, can you imagine? Corporal punishment. I mean, the thing is, when you look at every single depiction in any movie that you've ever seen or anything like that, it wasn't like the loving, you know, school mother, teacher, whatever, would spank the kids, you know, from a disciplinary position. Or no, every single time the nuns or the headmasters or whatever are known to be the spankers, they have like the paddle up in a glass case. Everybody knows about old Spanky and
Oh, they
and like the or
our
the
nuns used to hang it on the wall.
right, the rulers on the hand, smacking kids' hands with, okay, hold your hand out, whap.
Yep.
Can you imagine the fucking psychological damage that shit does to someone?
I witnessed that. I was in
And
first
of
grade,
course,
kindergarten, I witnessed that.
you know, if you don't cry like they want you to, they take offense to it,
Oh, they hit you again.
and they no, yeah, whack. And these women, these people, they've been doing this for decades. They've lost all sensitivity to how
Yeah, no,
wrong
they
it
smirk
is.
when they do it. Take that. It's more of a
Well, that first one, yeah, but when you don't give them what they want, they get angry because they want you to cry. They want you to bleed and suffer.
if you got to the principal's office, that's when you were bent over the desk with your pants down.
Thinking about that, like, think about how
Paddle with the holes.
how many disgusting people, you know, got that job and took it to different levels.
Well, there, the nuns were the principal. You know, it was always.
Oh, but this type of punishment was in everywhere. This
Yeah.
wasn't church. That became like the religious institutions were probably the last to do it, but this shit was everywhere.
Yeah, no. When Gary and Mom were in school, like Gary went through it, public and private schools. Me, I only witnessed it in the private schools because by the time I was in school, the public schools had already weeded most of it out because it was becoming illegal.
As it should, like, it's child abuse. What do we? It's one thing. It's one thing when it's your kid. I guess it's still child abuse. But when it's not your kid, well, yeah, back then things used to be a lot better. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. There just wasn't the internet, social media, wasn't cell phones and everybody having a voice so you could hear them to tell you all the stories back then. The wives were just beaten. That's it. The husbands drank. Better get me. I'm going to go sit and watch TV. This is how we were told it was supposed to be. Husband comes home from work. He's in a bad mood. No, not yet. He's in a bad mood. Nobody's to talk to him. He's going to go sit in front of his chair, bring him a beer, let him do his little wind down, then dinner's to be ready shortly thereafter. You know. And then he eats, and he gets up and he goes, and he doesn't take his plate into the kitchen or anything. He gets up and he goes and he sits back in his chair and he watches his TV. He smokes his pipe. As he wants more beers, wife stops washing dishes and whatnot, doing homework, doing all the things necessary to bring him beers, and then they go to bed. That's how we were told it was supposed to be. We go upstairs and sleep in our separate beds.
After he gets laid.
Well, that never happens. Not on TV. Not on TV. This is how the generation of people that run our country right now, this is what they saw on TV over and over and over again.
Think how it should be.
Yeah, that's what Make America Great Again is. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about 50s McCarthyism. You know, women know their place. People of color know their place.
Poor people know their
Poor
place.
people know their place. Gays are, not out.
And they're not trying to leech off of us. Yeah.
All those government programs for gay sex changes.
They're paying for their sex changes.
Paying for the sex changes.
Not.
But
The insurance company that they've been paying into and raping them for years, paying for it potentially, but maybe not.
the insurance company that's been raping everyone.
Well, yeah, but
Insurance
even
is the
them
craziest shit. Like you can see there was a video I saw where somebody was walking around and asking people, what they thought, different things cost. Asked, how much do you think EpiPens cost? EpiPens cost money? Yeah, how much do you think? I don't know, 20, 40 bucks? No, higher. They'd be like, what? And they would only go up by like $20 increments because they just couldn't imagine it actually cost $600.
You mean something that saves people's
Right.
lives? Like
They asked, how much do you think an ambulance ride costs? They said, you got to pay for the ambulance to come to your house? I don't know, 100 bucks? 200 bucks? $2,500. Because, they use $2,500 worth of gas.
Right.
And those two people that spend the half hour on you, that's $2,500 worth of time. I mean, it's funny how the argument isn't even brought up. Like, it's free healthcare and all. They used to bring it up, but they would tell us how it would just destroy our economy. It would destroy our healthcare system.
Bad in other countries.
So bad.
They have to line up for hospitals, and to see a doctor, they have to go on a waiting list, and it could take you up to 2 years to see a doctor for something.
And lo and behold, as social media became a thing, cell phones are in everyone's hands. And all of these Europeans are saying, no, everything's cool.
I think it,
Once
right
we
during
have
the Reagan
access,
presidency, is when they really were starting to demonize, like outwardly putting that campaign out there, trying to brainwash us that healthcare is just awful. Don't even think about it. Other countries.
well, no, I mean they've been telling us that everywhere else is fucked. Oh, that's what America is. America is, yeah, I know you're struggling, but you don't want to be anywhere else.
I mean, the healthcare thing.
Yeah, I know, and that's part of it because we thought, you grew up thinking, I mean,
we had a lot
it's
of
like
Canadians coming over working here and sharing with their coworkers, like, your guys' healthcare system sucks. Ours is, So it was like starting to spill over, and people were starting to talk.
To a degree, but again, social media is what blew. Social media is what.
For sure, that leveled the playing field.
Right, it's our best weapon. It's the best thing they accidentally ever gave us. I think it's just because they underestimate us and they think we're so stupid that they thought they could give this to us and it wouldn't lead to this.
Or they knew and they already have a plan. So
no, I think they put out the statements that if you open the books on Israel, you demonize Israel, thinking that makes them look good. Like they're not smart. I really think they thought that, yeah, we'll be able to monitor them. It'll be cool. We'll be able to do. They didn't think that we would use it like we do, And they had to. That's why for so many years it was almost like too good to be true, because they weren't prepared for us to be doing what we were doing. They had to figure out a way to put all the censorship in place and all. Like I remember. Facebook Live used to be better. It was a better experience. They had, it would tell you when people would come on. It would tell you when people would like your videos. It would allow you more communication.
Yeah, now unless you know whose icon is what, you only get a second of it before it turns to the heart or the like.
Well, that's all it is.
Recognize
Right.
what their little round logo is, you don't even know who that is.
But you don't even see if they come to watch you. It used to say blah blah was watching.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's just they fucked up, and I'm sure they're reeling and they're trying to figure out ways they can limit us on this and limit the platform and censor us, and you know that Team Jorge works really really hard. If you don't think that shit, it's I mean I've literally proven to you time and again that Israel controls Facebook. It's just what it is. Why, like, to think that they give this to us and don't try to use it and milk it for everything that's just stupid. Of course they try to milk it. Of course they use it to their advantage. Of course they monitor everything we say. Why wouldn't they? Why would they give it to us for free? Do you know how much money they could make off of Facebook? I know when I wrote the song Charge for Change, which encouraged Facebook to charge us. Facebook had 2.9 billion users worldwide. And the narrative of the song is that if Facebook just charged people $1 to have Facebook, it was charged to their phone bill each month. They never had to even think about it. It was just a dollar charge. Like, they might lose 0.5% of the viewer. Like, everybody, nobody's going to give a shit. You know? Especially if Facebook were to say, "Hey, we're gonna charge people, and we're not even gonna use it for profit. We're gonna donate literally every dollar we get to worthy causes." That would be $2.9 billion, say $3 billion a month. $36 billion a year that Facebook could contribute to homelessness, to feeding the hungry, feeding the, like, all of that. They could do all kinds of great things with that. You know. They could even do it without being philanthropic with it and just spread it out amongst their investors, amongst their top brass. I'm sure they could use an additional $3 billion a fucking month. Who couldn't? $3 billion every month. They give that up so they can give it to us for free because they just love us so much. There's no nefarious purposes there. You think that's true? You know, I think speaking of 9/11 from earlier, that's really one of the first, like, signs of, you know, cracks in the facade. Like, they were like, "Oh shit, wait a minute." But 9/11 is, you know, there's a brilliance in 9/11, right? The whole 9/11 truther movement. You know, the main focus of just about every 9/11 truther documentary, you know, inquiry, whatever, is Building 7. And, you know, Building 7, obviously a controlled demolition. You know, the British reporter, you know, reporting it falling before it falling, and just it's just so obviously shit. And then the whole the towers thing is this huge, pay attention to this. All three of those towers are what everybody focuses on. By the way, I think the comments are fucked, so that's why I'm not even addressing anything, because nothing new's coming through. But the real story of 9/11 is the Pentagon. And that's what, 9/11, it's like how Shireen Abu Akleh's murder covers up the fact that Israel attacked her funeral. They used the murder to cover up for the funeral. Like, strange thought, but it's how it works. They used the towers to cover up the Pentagon. The Pentagon is the craziest fucking bullshit, man. The Pentagon is the thing everybody should be talking about. Should be looking at and asking questions about. Why isn't everybody talking about the Pentagon? The night before, Donald Rumsfeld, because duh, he's a dual Israeli citizen, Donald Rumsfeld, reports with all the confidence in the world that they can't track $2.3 trillion. They lost it. They lost $2.3 trillion. $2.3 trillion. Like, you can't think that high. $2.3 trillion would fix all the problems. You could send everybody to fucking school. You could provide a home for every homeless person. So many amazing things could be done with 2.3 trillion. And that's 2.3 trillion in 2002 money or 2001 money. It's probably more like $5 trillion nowadays. I don't know. It's a lot. If you're watching, like, share, and sub. Or dislike. You can do that too. And the very next day, whatever it was that hit the Pentagon, hit the exact location where that $2.3 trillion was being investigated, and all of the information associated with it was destroyed. Now, supposedly, I only knew about one security cam footage of the incident, but apparently there were two released. I never heard about the second one until recently. Just two from two slightly different angles. And apparently, in this new one that I never heard of, you can actually sort of see the plane in it, which, again, interesting. But the security cam footage showed what looked like the tip of something, and then a weird little wispy, like, smoke trail, like a missile trail. And then, because each frame, they said the plane was going too fast to be caught, and it went in between the frames. And it hit the Pentagon, the super reinforced G.I. Joe structure. The wings folded in on itself, and the tail folded in on itself, all to create a hole that isn't big enough for the fuselage to have gotten through. Small hole that went all the way through, like a bunker buster missile goes through. It went all the way through the 3 or 4 different layers of concrete and steel and shit that the Pentagon G.I. Joe fortress was made of. Created a perfect hole on the other side, too. And then that same Donald Rumsfeld was seen running around the scene, picking up fucking evidence by hand and carrying it off. Destroying the crime scene. They literally destroyed the crime scene on camera in front of the world. And there's no repercussions for it. The Secretary of Defense, one of the highest ranking positions, Donald Rumsfeld, is out there on the fucking lawn picking up pieces with his bare hands and carrying them off somewhere? That sounds like a conspiracy theory, and that's the truth part. And then they knock down the building, the wall, so you can't see the hole anymore. And then they go to the different people filming it and say, "Hey, can you stop filming?" And everybody goes, "Yeah, no problem. We'll stop filming now." And all the footage stops. There was also, many cameras. I seem to remember somewhere over 100, but who knows? Cameras that had different angles of the Pentagon from different gas stations, bank machines, all these different things. The FBI was there within a half hour at all of these different locations that just happened to have a view. They might not even known they had it. Rounding up tapes, security cameras and shit. Every single piece of footage you've ever seen regarding 9/11 was rounded up and confiscated by the FBI, CIA, and wasn't released to the public until 2005 or so. You just think you saw more than you did. So more than you did. Not sure what I said there. And it's been so long that it all blends together now and you just don't quite remember it. Dr. Judy Wood is the best mind, she's done the best job that I've seen when it comes to what happened to the towers. Not speculating on who did it and all these other things, just what happened based on what we saw, based on the evidence. I'm a big Judy Wood supporter. But not even Judy Wood dares to say that the towers were the distraction. The reality is, if it weren't for the towers, the idea that a plane was allowed to be hijacked and flown into the Pentagon wouldn't make any sense. It wouldn't stand up to scrutiny, especially when the story comes out and he supposedly, this amateur pilot did the maneuvers that no human pilot could do, that the plane was flying at speeds and altitudes that would break it apart, that it somehow hit grounded light poles without destroying itself. Like, so many different aspects of what happened with the pen. Just the fact that it even got close enough, that it wasn't shot down by the multitude of defenses that are set up around the Pentagon, rockets that come out of the ground and different machine guns. And the Pentagon is the United States' #1 military base on record. It's not, obviously there's more important bases, but it's the main military base. Do you honestly think it's completely defenseless? Just be real. You cannot believe that the Pentagon doesn't have any sort of anti-air, nothing. But if not for the distraction of the towers, everybody'd be saying the same shit. The Pentagon story would be just this #1 crazy story. And then the fact that it happened to be in the same wing with the $2.3 trillion that's now gone. That many years later, they were like, "Oh yeah, we did find it. Don't worry about it. We found it." They didn't find it because it wasn't missing. It had just been dispersed in ways that we aren't allowed to know. $2.3 trillion. $2,300 billion. It's beyond your comprehension. You can't fathom what 2,300 billion of something is. You haven't seen 2 billion, You can look out your window and look at all the grass you can see, and you're not seeing 2,300 billion blades of grass. Yeah. You go to the beach, you're not seeing that many grains of sand. It's these are numbers that you just can't even begin to wrap your head around. And we had that much in money that was disappeared. You know, it's funny to think, like, how much do you think a giant operation like that would cost? Where you would have to be able to buy all of the different agencies and different you know, the technology that's used, the all the stuff that was used to bring the towers down, to hijack all that, the planning, all the actors involved and their families, you know, that need to be compensated if that's even a thing. I'm a no planer personally. She didn't stop. What are you barking at? The hell are you even barking at, you dumb goofus? We'll be down in a minute.
Dad, we need to get more golf cart.
I heard you a bunch of times. Now, how much do you think that whole operation, would you think that that would be like a $2.3 trillion operation? I never made that connection before. But that just makes so much sense now. What paid for 9/11? What paid for all the silence that was bought? All the actors used, all the technology used. That's pretty nuts. Yeah. That probably cost $2.3 trillion. That's fucking wild, man. You gotta immediately take, you know, $7 billion and put that aside for Silverstein so he can make his $7 billion off of the insurance. Right? Wasn't it $7 billion that he made? 7 billion or 700 million. I think it's 7 billion. But I could be wrong. Really interesting theory. But again, it's all the you know, you got to pay the news, you got to pay all the, you guys have to remember the live footage that supposedly shows the second plane hitting. Like, there's a bunch of different views that now exist and we know about. But at the time, there was one helicopter view that multiple, you know, 247, they all seem to have the same view. But what they would do is, you know, instead of taking, so you have this footage here, right? So one news agency zooms it into here, right? Another agency zooms it in to here, right? So it looks like it's coming from different angles, or they add a different color to it, you know, add a little tint or whatever. But all of the news agencies, when that second plane hit, the nose of it clearly comes through the building. The footage goes black for a second, which is like 15 frames. And then but it's only like a second. And then it comes back, it's readjusted, and it blows up. Now we know that there's a delay, right? We know that everything that's shown has an 8-second delay or whatever it is. So the overlay fucked up and went too far. The timing, I mean, they were trying to do a live event, live explosions and shit. There were explosions used. had to make the cartoon plane holes. But they fucked up. They just fucked up. And there's just, it's like, there's no way around that, right? I don't care who you are, or like what dumb president you fall for and vote for, or what Jesus you believe in. I don't give a shit. You're not dumb enough to think that the nose of an aluminum plane can go all the way through a building untouched. Then the camera on every single one of them happened to black for a second, and then it blows. You're not that stupid. You know? I don't care what kind of troll you are, blah blah. You're not that stupid. There's more than enough proof to show that Israel had plenty of forewarning. So many Jays didn't show up for work that day. There was the group, the dancing Israelis is a thing. Like, it's not a conspiracy theory. It's a fact. There was a group of Israelis who had set up a tripod with a camera on it prior to the first plane hitting. We're seen filming it. Then we're seen dancing and high-fiving after the first plane hit. She then called the police. Nobody showed up. After the second plane hit, did the same thing. She called the police again. Somebody shows up finally. They get arrested. While every other plane is being downed, or has been downed, along with the bin Ladens, these guys who are identified as Mossad are also allowed to leave, where they go back to Israel and go on Israeli TV and laugh all about the whole thing. There's no conspiracy theory there. It's the dancing Israelis. Just look it up. Just look it up, man. It really is fascinating to think, like, how do they just get away with shit like that? Like, it's wild, right? Nobody else gets away with something like that. And it's nobody else gets away with, oh, that's just a conspiracy. That's not, it's truth. There is proof that and it's not just that. I mean, there's all sorts of legislative proof. There are all the put options that were put on all those put options. Instead of, the stock market, you can bet on what companies will succeed and you can make a lot of money on it, but you can also bet on companies failing or stocks dropping or whatever. And you can make a shit ton of money doing that if you know how to time things the right way. Basically, if you have some sort of insider information. And so there were a whole bunch of put options put on American Airlines and other companies that were involved in this whole 9/11 bullshit. And there were several J senators who made a lot of money from it. Not Jason, just there were lots of J's. There were other people too, but there were lots of J's that made money off of 9/11. There was one J who tried to trademark 9/11 something or other immediately. Was trying to trademark something that had to do with 9/11 by the end of the day. So he could make money off of it. But again, there's just so much about 9/11 with the towers, the gold, all the gold that was seen being trucked out of 9/11 just before the towers fell. So much of this is hard to find anymore, too. It's been scrubbed. What was in the 500 million going? So this is just some random WFMY News Channel 2. WFMY News 2 has talked with D.H. Griffin many times over the years. He was the point person on the Ground Zero cleanup. Here and how he devised a plan to take down a 7-story piece of Tower 2. But this week, marking the 20 years, I talked with him about details of the cleanup and things most of us never even thought of when it came to what was in the rubble. There were over 30 federal agencies that we had to deal with on a daily basis. There was $500 million worth of gold and silver inside some of the bank vaults inside the World Trade Center. We had to work with the DEA. There were several hundred pounds of drugs on site at the U.S. Customs Evidence Room. Yeah, but all that shit was destroyed into fine powder, wasn't it? Working through the red tape of 38 agencies, blah, 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 blah. I mean, this is just stupid. Let's see if we can't. Why can't I find what I'm looking for here? The vote. This is from the New York Times, November 1st, 2001. About 2 weeks ago, a security team spotted scorch marks on a basement doorway below 4 World Trade Center on the east side of the ruined complex, according to officials. Even in a place of mass devastation and death, those scorch marks got fast attention. They had not been noticed by the patrol team a few hours earlier, and behind the damaged but intact door were nearly 1,000 tons of gold and silver. To security officials, it looked as if someone had tried to break in. Within hours, a video surveillance team was installed to keep at least an electronic eye on the precious metals under their custodian. The Bank of Nova Scotia had a chance to remove them. That work began this week. A team of 30 firefighters and police officers are helping to remove the metals, a task that can be measured practically down to the flake, but that has been rounded off at least 379,036 ounces of gold and 29,942,619 ounces of silver. Well, that survived. See, this isn't even it, though. Test is inspector report. This isn't it. My father standing in the gold storage vault. So this gold storage vault story seems to be narrow it down. Trucks removed gold on 9/11 before towers before tower collapse. Was there any gold found in the ground there? See? The vault. Where to the vault? The Pentagon, 9/11. Well, this wasn't what I was looking for, but what is this? Oh, shit. I don't want that. Not trying to download some PDF. Really funny how the comments have been shut off, isn't it? So that story has been changed. Actors of terror. 9/11 Commission report. Why did the government immediately remove all available scrap metal? What was the impact background, health effects, plain view. None of them were seen on any security cameras. Twin Towers, treasure trove for looters. I can't believe I can't. Unveiling anti-Semitic 9/11 conspiracy theories. Oh, I gotta read this. This is the 80. Oh shit, that's another one. Damn it, I gotta see that before I do. 9/11 WT biggest gold heist in history. 300 billion in bars. Well, let's see. This is seabreeze.com. Australia, I believe. And there's nothing to read. It's just a video.
And now for the last question of all. Why would our government do such a thing?
This is just
I hope you're sitting
loose
down.
change.
First, we have Larry Silverstein, the man who purchased the World Trade Center in July
So
2001.
gross. It's not that though. Reddit. What happened to the gold reserves that were under the WTC? That's not it. It's really strange that there's the story of it, but it's just the loose change story. Nobody else knows about it, huh? Or at least I can't find anything else about it. Was there a huge gold depository looted on 9/11? That's Quora. Here. Truck illustrates courage, tragedy, and the impact of 9/11. 9/11 heist. The missing trillions. Follow the money. Let's see, is this going to show up? Forget the one moment everything you've been told. Forget for one moment everything you've been told about September 11, 2001. Instead, ask ourselves one question. What was 9/11? A terrorist atrocity, an attack on America, the first salvo in a new war, a day that changed everything? Well, when you look at what's happened since, it's kind of interesting. The question may seem simple, but how we answer it is of vital importance. It determines how we proceed with our investigation of that day. Once you strip away the emotional rhetoric and the fear-inducing memory, like Press NH Now just uploaded a video. Go check it out. The rhetoric and the fear-inducing imagery were left with a simple truth. 9/11 was a crime. And as with any crime, there is one overriding impartial imperative that detectives must follow to identify the perpetrators. Follow the money. In 1998, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey agreed to privatize the World Trade Center, the complex of office towers in Lower Manhattan that they had owned and operated since their construction in '73. In April 2001, an agreement was reached with a consortium of investors led by Silverstein Properties. April of 2001. He literally owned it April, May. So I guess we don't know when in April.
Make a bunch of phone calls.
An agreement was reached with the consortium of investors led by Silverstein Properties, and on July 24th, Larry Silverstein, who already owned World Trade Center Building 7, interesting, signed the 99-year lease. So July 24th. So you can't even really count July. So July, August, September. So basically just August. Like August and then like 16 days, 17 days between the other 2 months. So maybe a month and a half he actually owned these buildings. That's crazy. 99-year lease for the 2 towers and buildings 4 and 5. This old ass man signed the 99-year lease. The lease was for like that. That doesn't even seem like a reasonable Is that how that works? Is that how big buildings work in our like I'm actually asking because I don't know. You know what? I have to come back because I want comments on this. So if you're watching, come back. We're gonna do this. Pedophiles kill.